Let me confirm, as I was promising to you yesterday, also about Lewis Hall, some updates from Newcastle. My understanding is that Man United are looking at left back as a position to cover, so could be the next one for Manchester United, for sure. But Lewis Hall at the moment is considered, first of all, too expensive. And second, Newcastle have absolutely no intention to proceed for this one. Newcastle already sold several big players, Sandro Tonali to Tottenham, Anthony Gordon to Barcelona, now Bruno Guimaraes is going to join Arsenal. Also they lost the coach, Eddie Howe, and that's also a massive blow. So now the understanding is that the story is going in that direction, with Newcastle trying their best to keep Lewis Hall. Only a crazy proposal could change the stance, could change the story. So we will be following everything in the next days.
Yes, I've seen you here, there and everywhere talking about everything, and now it's time to talk about Manchester United. Ben, can you give us some clarity on what is actually happening at the club? With roughly 3 weeks of the window remaining, I mean, how many more signings are they realistically expecting to make? I mean, there's some United fans out there that are questioning whether any are coming our way.
Yeah, I understand it. It's been disappointing so far, despite that little flurry where Andre Santos and Yuri Tielemans arrived at the same time. My expectation is there's still budget to spend and desire to add multiple names. I stand by what I've said before, judge the window at the end, even though your kind of mini point is always maybe a week before the season starts. How much fluidity and chemistry is there, and who's come in? They'd like to add another midfielder, but I don't expect that they'll panic buy at the moment. Interestingly, Barcelona have entered the race for Rodri, so if Real Madrid don't get another midfielder, they likely won't lose another midfielder, so that's a kind of mini update there. Left back seems to be an area where they're putting a lot of onus on, and maybe in the last 7 days since we spoke, there's been more movement and clarity over the potential exit of Josh Zirkzee, and that may open the door to add a number 9 as well. They need to resolve Marcus Rashford and his future. Still would entertain offers at 40 million, even though that clause has disappeared. So now it's really key, because a lot of the waiting needs to translate into business, and a lot of the clarity that hasn't come has to come immediately, particularly with Rashford, so Manchester United know what to attack in terms of priorities between now and the end of the window. But I'd be surprised, maybe famous last words, I'd be shocked, in fact, if Man United don't do a fair amount of business, incomings and outgoings still in these final, 3.5 weeks of the window.
Ben Jacobs was asked if there is still a possibility for Manchester United to get Lewis Hall from Newcastle United. And here is what he said.
Yeah, I think that with the left back, it is going to be really key to see whether or not Dorgu plays advanced or less advanced, and then work out that long-term succession plan to Luke Shaw. And we know that he can't play every single week, and we certainly know that he can't go through a grueling season of, let's hope, nearly 70 plus games if Manchester United go far in every competition. With Lewis Hall, it's kind of media catching up now, but I've spoken about this possibility for months and months, and it still remains the case that Lewis Hall is Man United's dream target, but viewed as potentially expensive and difficult to do. And yet most within Manchester United think it's going to be really difficult financially and feasibly to pull that particular deal off. So let's see if they try. If they don't use the budget on a third midfielder, do they go all in on a left back instead? But Lewis Hall and Manchester United has always been one to watch. It's just a case of the percentage chances of it happening are complicated by a new manager coming in and the likely price that Newcastle would put on any exit this summer.
Ben Jacobs kept answering a lot of questions. He was asked who Manchester United's midfield target is, since United were linked with a lot of midfielders. Tyler Adams, Sandabarge, and Manu Kone as Roma. Here is what he said.
Yeah, possibly. Manu Kone, the price is a bit higher than some people have suggested, so that's one factor in all of this. Sander Berg, still a possibility, has been on their radar for quite some time. It feels like they've been exploring other options first, but they could pivot back to that. Tyler Adams is one possibility. They looked at him in January. Remember, with Tyler Adams, there's no guarantee that this reported number of 35 million is the price. Player would be keen on a move to Manchester United, though, but my information is, although Adams is not unsellable, the number would probably be closer to the 50 million mark rather than in and around the 35 million, which has found its way out into the media. Then if Camavinga becomes available, they made an inquiry there. Obviously, Tchouaméni, verbal agreement in place. Still kind of strange it's not been announced. But once again, if the door opens and there's a reasonable number behind Tchouaméni, Man United would move. He'd be their top target. But we've said this for weeks now, and the end game still just could be that Real Madrid finally announce that contract renewal and definitively end the saga. So there are midfield options obviously available to Manchester United, some a little bit more budget, some a little bit more feasible. It's interesting that Baleba today has picked up an injury, and that might mean that any chances of him moving between now and the end of the window are diminished. I have no indication, by the way, that Man United made a fresh approach. We're only speaking about Baleba because they wanted him a year ago and they've kind of already got personal terms in place. But there's no evidence that Man United in the last few weeks have placed a bid or have decided to escalate that particular transfer at this stage. We'll have to wait and see in the final days of the window.
Hello and welcome to the Red Devils updates, where you get all the latest Manchester United's transfer news. Michael Carrick's side are still working on new summer signings ahead of a return to the Champions League, having brought in 5 new faces so far, while 12 stars have left the club. At things stand, Marcus Rashford looks set to be reintegrated into the Manchester United first team, though there's ongoing speculation about his future. Marcus Rashford looks increasingly likely to be reintegrated into the Manchester United first team under Michael Carrick this summer, with Barcelona's likelihood of taking up their option to buy the forward dwindling by the day. How do you feel about the prospect of Rashford representing the Reds again next term? Let us know in the comments. But that's not the end. United will reportedly try to bring in another midfielder and have been linked with AS Roma midfielder Manu Kone, with left back another area the club are said to be targeting. Newcastle United fullback Lewis Hall is one player United are keen on signing, though it may be difficult to get him out of St. James's Park. And the news coming out this week clearly says that if Manchester United fail to strike a deal with Newcastle United for Lewis Hall, then there are other options that the club may opt to explore. Fulham's Anthony Robinson could be one of those, who would likely be a cheaper alternative to Hall, who has just enjoyed a breakout season with the Magpies. Sky Sports claims that Robinson is on United's shortlist, while Liverpool and Manchester City have also been credited with monitoring the USA international situation. Elsewhere, Juventus have stepped up their chase for Joshua Zirkzee. Racing Santander's Jorge Salinas could be an alternative to Hall for United, and Aurelien Tchouaméni continues to be linked with a move to Old Trafford. In other news, Manchester United have been offered the chance to sign Jed Spence from Tottenham Hotspur, according to a journalist. Man United are on the hunt for a left back to find a long-term successor to Luke Shaw. Newcastle United star Lewis Hall is Man United's top target for the left back role. Hall himself is said to be ready to join Man United, but Newcastle do not want to sell the England international. It has now emerged that Spence has been offered to Man United. According to journalist Ben Jacobs on the United Stand, the Tottenham Hotspur and England international fullback has been offered to Man United. Spence is able to play as a right back or as a left back, and was one of England's best players at the 2026 World Cup. The transfer journalist has added that Spence, 25, has also been offered to Liverpool. Jacobs, though, has claimed that it is not clear whether Man United have said that they want to sign Spence, while also noting that Tottenham manager Roberto De Zerbi wants to keep him.